Disclaimer. Warning. You view or listen to this podcast entirely at your own risk. Although at least one of the participants is brilliant, it contains ridiculous self-indulgent humor and references to non-existent people you'd never want to hang out with. Welcome to the Shizjig universe.
This is episode 180 of the Brain Software Podcast, coming to you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. Today, Mike Mandel and I will discuss lots of cool stuff, including ego state integration and heteroaction. So stay tuned.
And by that time, the lake had become rather tepid and full of snails. So we took the crates of tea and loaded them into the birch bark canoe, along with the golf clubs, the Lee Enfield No. 4 rifle, the caviar, the box of chocolates for Lady Melbury, and of course the ant repellent. And so, as I was saying, I climbed in the bow of the canoe. Well, not much of a canoe really, just some cereal box cardboard stapled together and dipped in malt vinegar. And as we began to sink, I turned to Dennis Bryce Morgan and asked him if he had any idea whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know.
These are days of victory. So let's welcome to the first class compartment of the Hypnotic Crazy Train, a man of rare and glittering perception, the custodian of the blacklist, and the Heisenberg of hypnosis, but without the crime, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Chris, I'm risking my neck, and it's a bad day for my neck.
That's
I
right.
did it anyway. This is going to be a really good one. We're looking at ego state integration. We may touch on heteroaction. We're seeing how this goes. We're working with some time constraints today, but I must tell you,
Just as much value, but a little less jackassery, and
right,
still as much
but I
fun.
have to tell you what happened on the way
Okay,
here.
what happened on the way
I'm dying to
here?
tell you this. Lake Ridge, around the turnoff for Myrtle,
Okay.
just before that.
This is on Mike's drive from Toronto into my area.
There's a
Right.
slowdown on the road. You can't make this stuff up. There's a guy on the side of the road in an older car, like an Oldsmobile or something.
Right.
He's
Perfect.
outside the car. He's got two flat tires, both on the driver's side. So the front and back tires are completely flat. Now I have CAA, as you do, I'm sure. So you get auto service everywhere you go. You know, they change your tire, they give you gas. They
Familiar with it, yeah.
boost your battery if you have one,
yeah.
or many in your case, the Tesla. But anyway, so I have that, so I don't have to worry about things like this. This guy's trying to fix his own car. He's got a jack with a super long handle, and he's just working away on the back wheel. Does it occur to him he only has one spare wheel in the car? He's going to change both of them.
I don't know.
Just get CAA. I'm looking at this guy, and he was literally jacking in the jackery, like Jack the frickin' Jacker. I thought, I'm seeing someone jacking in the jackery for the first time in my life, like Jack the Jacker.
I think I made that joke to you when I was putting on my summer tires.
I honked as I passed and gave him a friendly wave, as I always do.
I thought you were going to tell me that it was Gus Grissom.
No, it's actually
that would have been okay.
Anyway,
so there we go. So the lesson in that, and maybe this will fit into the think tank words. We'll find out. CAA is Canadian Automobile Association. I think for Americans or probably anyone around the world, there are different organizations.
They all work
It's
together.
a good idea. It's one of those things where sometimes insurance, although the math always works out in the favor of the provider, sometimes it's all about the downside hit that you'll take. So in those odd events where you need it, you're sure glad you had it.
You sure are.
Right?
Yep. Listen to my voice. What's going on here?
I don't know. You're.
Notice I turned towards you.
There you go.
Okay, so let's go through the think tank words generated on several.
First we have to make sure that we give the absolute upfront teaser. What are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to be talking about ego state integration. We're going to be talking also about a vital hypnotic principle known as heteroaction.
Yes.
We're going to explain to you how this actually makes sense in everyday life, not just in hypnosis, but everything is hypnosis.
That's good, Chris. So we'll work with our notes. We both have our amazing iPad Pros, and we're going to keep going like Jack the Go-keeping. Now, well, let's look at the think tank words. These are generated randomly from the think tank, and I do take the three I get, and we force them to fit.
And we do our best to fit them in.
So here's our first one, is stockade.
Don't even know what it means.
Okay, stockade, I think it's like, you know, the Civil War, those forts.
Oh, is it like those big fences?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
sharp
seeing
wooden.
here. Yeah. One of these I had to look up.
Okay, stockade. So to keep something out, to keep stuff out.
Or keep something in.
Keep something in, yeah.
Remember, the Romans built a wall to keep the Scots out.
Ah, okay.
Why?
That's it.
Because the Scots would come in and invade, and the Romans were terrified.
Well, that's what I said. Keep people out.
I know it's not a stockade. That was a wall. So how are we applying it to this?
Well, let's see. What does it make me think of? If you don't have heteroaction when you're doing hypnosis, then you're going to have a hard time getting in.
Brilliant.
How about that?
I will accept that. Thank you.
Next one is antique.
Now, what I came up with on this as soon as I saw the word was a lot of people are using really old hypnotic techniques that are essentially antiques. The science has gone beyond that. It doesn't mean they don't have value.
I was just going to say sometimes the old stuff is still the best stuff. Sometimes it isn't, though.
Yeah.
Right?
I like
sometimes it's there for posterity, make your bookshelf look good. Oh, there's that old book on hypnosis where the guy recommended that you wake people up and say, are you okay?
Actually, it was are you all right?
Are you all right? That's it. But sometimes the old stuff, for example, the concept of heteroaction that we'll be talking about today. Andre Weizenhofer, what year did he talk about this?
I believe it's 1957, General Techniques of Hypnotism.
Like, that's a pretty antique-ish idea, right? And I would say we're still relying on
Canada in that year.
There you go.
True.
So there you go.
And the final one you're going to love, it's pinnace. Now, I had to check to make sure it's
not... Is that a real word?
Sure it's not panache or something. It is
panache.
Which is so much like when we would say penis.
Right.
Pennis.
Extra N just to make it more amusing.
Right. So it's user-friendly.
Now, this word is Pinnace.
But it is pinnace.
Pinnace, like a pin and a furnace.
Like don't into your pinnace.
What does it mean?
It's a small boat, like a skiff that was used during the time of the pirates, and they still use them. It would be carried sometimes as part of a galleon that could be dropped in the water.
That fits in perfectly with the idea of yes sets that we're going to be talking about as part of heteroaction. Okay, so a small boat that can still create a big, let's say, it can cascade a big set of changes, right? If a pirate goes in on a small boat and starts something bad, that can turn into something real bad once the big pirate ship comes in.
So what you're saying is even a small pinnace can be a good thing. I'm a common genius. Okay,
this is where we do.
I'm still looking at the monitor.
Let me have you slide over a bit. There we go. I know.
So enjoying my Heisenberg hat. Okay, let's slide over.
I know. Are you?
Reset. Okay.
Press the button. I've been saying that to people now. It's really fun.
Press the button.
Yeah, I just hold this up on meetings and I go, press the button.
Let's talk about ego state integration. Now, last podcast, we did talk about ego state
and transformation.
And it's one of the two protocols I came up with. This is the other one today. The transformation is when you're changing the metaphor itself, so you're transforming the appearance of the ego state.
Right.
And its nature changes as a result. We gave the example of blurter, blabbermouth guy that I was dealing with, who then became this svelte, wonderful
Heisenberg hat wearing
lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah. So today we're looking at you nailed this.
The ego state integration is more like the family therapy metaphor, right? So you have a bunch of different parts. I'm putting air quotes for the audio people listening. A bunch of different parts, and they need to all get along and pay attention to the highest wisdom state and have a what's the word I'm looking for?
A meaningful cohesion.
A community. Forming a what's the word I'm looking for, Mike? It's on the tip of my tongue. Forming a committee. Thank you. Right. There we go. So if you think about whether it be a family therapy model or a team model, a sports team that has a coach that all the players listen to, or in a work environment, there's a team leader perhaps. So this is the model we're talking about.
And we're trying to bring cohesion.
Right. There we go. We got the, there we go.
I've started looking at the camera. As I said, I've been so obsessed with how great I look in this freaking hat that I've been watching myself constantly, paying almost no attention to the content other than looking unconsciously and consciously for humorous ways of saying pinnace.
But you admit it.
Blading, you've brought it back.
But you admit it, so it's okay. All right.
Let's give you quickly the whole idea that it's always an ego state issue. That's what we believe. If you have a phobia, it's a traumatized, invaded ego state, invaded by fear, anger, sadness, trauma, whatever. It's always a freaking ego state problem. If you have two ego states in conflict, it's an ego state problem. If people are bipolar, used to be called manic depressive, that is an ego state issue. It's two competing ego states. One puts them in, wow, this is great, and the other one, whoa, I'm doomed. And we're not making light of that. We have friends who are bipolar, and it's a horrible thing.
It's not,
but
it's not a knock.
Two specific ego states that take turns in the executive and lead to wild swings in the mood. So we like to use the bungalow metaphor really quickly. Single-story house with one door, Whichever ego state is opening and answering the door is the one that is executive, connected to executive function in the prefrontal cortex here. And on the main floor are the ego states you use on a day in, day out basis, 5 to 15 of them. Whichever one answers the door to deal with the world, that's the interface between the outer world. But you also have a basement. And the basement is the remaining 100, 150 ego states that are probably fine, but they don't come up very often.
Right, okay.
You may have one from childhood that hasn't been out in the surface for a long time. And then you got the bomb shelter off to the side. And that's the ones that are wounded and traumatized. They don't need to stay locked up. They need to be healed and then integrated. So all of that works based on this idea Gordon Emerson talks about. I think he's an Australian psychologist. He said, these are burned in neural pathways in your brain. They're not imaginary. They're not constructs. They're not, I feel like I'm this person. No. These are parts of you that have specific purposes. And I'm speaking to you from an ego state right now, actually one that's very good at explaining and has access to all of my resources. Now, having said that, ego states need to have a useful task. And you can work with them as a committee, and they are best when they get along with each other. Now, they're not going to get along if one of them is doing a task that it hates.
That makes sense.
Can you think of a time you've been unresourceful? There's an ego state executive that it doesn't.
Sure. And also, anyone can probably think back to a time where maybe they had a job and their role involved some tasks that they freaking hated.
Like job.
If you had a job where you had to mop the floor, let's say, and you hate that part of the job, you're not going to be in a very good mood about it. Correct. You're probably not going to be in the right ego state to function as a good team member.
Exactly right. And we see this with sports figures when they have an off day and they can't hit the ball if it's baseball or whatever. They can't skate if they're hockey players. It's the wrong freaking ego state executive a lot of the time, although not exclusively.
Right.
And the thing you said about mopping the floor, I hate doing dishes. And sometimes, even though we have a nice Miele quiet dishwasher that doesn't smell weird like the Korg one, whatever it is that Chris has. But no, the make you have is known for smelling weird after time. You got to throw it out and get a Miele. But anyway.
Posh.
That's the one.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is this. I don't like doing dishes. I hated it. Pots and pans, things that don't
the stuff that you can't fit in the dishwasher, you'd still have to wash in your sink.
I found an ego state that likes doing simple, mindless tasks and gets involved with the kinesthetic of the warm water.
And the music.
Yeah. I put on some music,
That's
maybe Long playing the Goldbergs or something, or Glenn Gould, or some, Ozzy Osbourne. And then that state becomes executive, takes over. It's actually fun doing dishes that state.
When you told me that, I started realizing that's what I enjoy too. Also, I do the cleanup mostly in my house. My wife does most of the meal prep and the cooking, and I take care of all the cleanup after. I get them to get out of the kitchen, and then I've got this Sonos Move in the kitchen, and it has Alexa built in. So I say,
another brand name.
I just speak to it and say, hey, play such and such for me. And I get the music going and I just enjoy it. So there you go. Right ego state for the job.
That's very good. So we want the right one for the job. Now, the interesting thing is when you're working with a client, you can assign tasks to specific ego states. You can negotiate with them. I've worked with them where you put the person in a deep trance and you ask that ego state to become executive. And you've seen it. We've done it on video.
Yep.
And ask it to just say, I'm here when it's become executive. It might take 30 to 40 seconds. You don't say that's right or anything. You just wait.
Which ego state are we talking about here now?
Whichever
let's frame this
you
up.
need to get to for a specific task.
Right.
So let's say an ego state.
I'd like to call to the executive. I'd like to speak with the part of you that's responsible for whatever it is.
Yeah, you at your best sports performance, or you who likes to work out, or you that is the best one for studying.
Ready to study.
You negotiate with them just like a committee, as though you have a group of people in front of you. So you can have it say, I'm here, and they have different voices, as you know. Our friend Richard did some great work with this. We watched him. He's a great trainer, and we saw him do this stuff in our class when he was the subject. But there's also the aspect here that you can just make sure that there's good lines of communication between them. If you have an ego state that has not been heard from in years, chances are good there are no clear neural pathways to it. In fact, Chris, it may need to go through another one to become executive.
Okay.
Does that make sense in engineering terms?
Yes, it does. And it just occurred to me now, I don't know why for the first time ever.
Different ego state executive that actually understands things.
Well, you know what ego state this was?
Hilarious.
It was the former corporate person, the former worked in an office with people on the team, etc. That part of me that works, that understands and looks for metaphors to explain things, that's what's active right now. So here's what had occurred to me. This model, metaphorically, is like, let's say that you are a bunch of parts, and that is a bunch of people on a team in a boardroom sitting around a table.
Yeah.
Okay? And the therapist is the outside coach who comes into that boardroom and says,
like a consultant?
"Hey guys, a consultant or
Yeah,
whatever."
yeah.
Says, "Okay, we've got a performance thing that we want to improve upon, whether it be a problem we want to make better, or we have an opportunity that we want to fully seize, right, and take advantage of."
Seize it in the Caesarea.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's right, in the Caesarea. So the consultant comes in. That's the hypnotist. Let's call to the front of the room the person on this team who's most responsible for XYZ, whatever outcome it is. Okay, now we're speaking to that person and forming agreement. Okay, what do you need? What is your role? My role is to whatever it is. Okay, who do you need to interact with? Who do you need to communicate with? And you're basically doing the therapy that way. That's the model that I'm thinking about.
That's a great model. Right? And with that model, you're dealing with them one-on-one and negotiating between them. And you really have to be in the mode where you're not taking sides. You have to be really neutral and supportive. And ego states will respond to that. Thing is, they love having a job to do, but they want to feel useful. But they want it to be a job that they like.
Yes.
So again, we always say having the right one executive. If I'm teaching jujitsu, and we haven't been able to because of COVID, still got the jujitsu tattoo here. If I'm teaching jujitsu, I do not want my ego state executive that likes to study or read.
Yeah, or play with your cat.
Play with my Egyptian Mao cat. Yeah, because I'll get killed. I don't want to be putting a choke on someone and going, oh, it's a nice pussycat.
Yeah.
You know, that wouldn't work. Likewise, I don't want to put a rear naked choke on the cat because he has nails and teeth. So having said that, these are burned in neural pathways. Now, I said you can reassign tasks to a specific ego state. The interesting thing is their nature. Their name will often be their nature. And if it doesn't have a name that has a specific nature, you can say, what is it that you do for this person? What is your function?
Makes perfect sense, right? Because the name is a label that they're giving it, and they're most likely going to pick a label that resonates with the behavior, with the nature.
Of course.
Right.
Now, having said all of that, when we deal with them one-on-one in a client setting and make profound changes, when you must at the end of it, always our motto is ecology first, the clients and yours. So at the end of the session, you must check your work. People who don't check their work are crazy. You know, they're as ridiculous as that guy I saw on the roadside jacking in the jackery this morning.
Cranking off his car, realizing I only got one spare tire.
So you have to think in terms of closing off the session and realizing that everything, and ensuring that everything is complete.
Yes.
There's no loose ends. And the way to do it, you can say at the end, are all your other ego states in agreement with this change? And if you're getting a yes signal. Now, remember I said you can have it speak. You can also set up finger signals, ideomotor. That's just as easy or easier to do. At that point, if you get yes, they're all in agreement, I'd have the ego states hug or shake hands. They're not actually doing it, but that's happening in a neural pathway.
Imagined.
Yes, but they're not imaginary. It's a metaphorical way of getting to your brain.
Right, because by imagining, it's sort of like the expression that whether you vividly imagine something or whether something actually happens, your brain doesn't necessarily know the difference. Right?
Red flag raised.
Why?
I just wanted to raise one.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
But
well, I'll raise you. I'll see your red flag.
And
I'll raise you another. Actually, there we go.
Brilliant. The appeal to the highest wisdom state.
Yes.
This to me was a game changer when I started dealing with NLP parts, ego states, resource states, subpersonalities, whatever you want to call them, it's the same thing. One ego state. And I got this, I think, from Gordon Emerson. It might have been Roy Hunter, another friend of ours from HypnoThoughts Live, really good therapist. The whole idea that everyone has a highest wisdom state, which is really a description, not necessarily a name. But the highest wisdom state is the only ego state that all of the others will listen to.
Like
and
they're
obey.
In rapport with that.
Right, and it
state.
has a level of authority that the others respect. Not that they're afraid of it, but that they respect it and will do what it says, albeit sometimes.
Are they the Raymond Reddington of ego states?
Well, Chris, I was once traveling through Algiers, as I said to you earlier, in a wonderful little coffee shop. No, let's not go there. Okay,
that is
I could have just launched into about 10 minutes on that. So,
man.
When you want to get the highest wisdom state executive, you can appeal to it to become executive. If it speaks, you will know because its voice will be stentorian. It'll be different. It commands respect. Now, again, you must deal with this on a fair basis. You have to be respectful and so on. But because the others will listen to this is my breakthrough. I came up with a method. You hypnotize the person because you can get to the superficial ego states without too much trouble.
Right.
Think of them as the people you're sitting in a room with, Chris, and
That's right.
they're in a coffee shop with you, but down in the basement, you're going to see a lot of different things. Now, listen, the bottom line is you put the person in a deep trance, ask the highest wisdom state to come forward. If you're a hypnotist, you should be able to do this on yourself.
Okay, perfect.
Once it comes forward. And again, if you're doing this for self-work, set up idiomotor signals, a yes signal and a no signal, not the ludicrous yes, no, maybe, tell you next week, haven't decided yet, it hasn't come to my attention, may think about it for, why make it complicated? Yes and no. Get the highest wisdom ego state executive and give it this suggestion, that it forms a committee of healthy, functioning ego states that want to help. They have to want to do this, okay? Then they search out wounded, dissociated, disenfranchised, disserviced.
Disservice. I'm waiting for you to say that.
I'm sitting down, slid in the chair.
Done myself a disservice.
Disservice in the nether regions. Now listen, when you do this, it's a weird facial expression. Reenfranchisement.
Yes.
Of the ego state.
Uh-oh. Yeah, reenfranchisement of the ego state.
This one too. So to set this up, so they formulate this committee. They find ego states that are out of the committee, that are out of the main group, out of the tribe, as it were.
Yeah.
And
disconnected.
Thank you. That's the English word.
There you go.
And they help that one become brought into the group and healed and given a useful task.
Right.
Whereupon it immediately joins the search committee and they keep searching.
So it's a search committee for lost and wounded and in need of healing.
Yes,
bring them to the team hospital.
Just bring them. Yeah.
Fix them, heal them, make them part of the team.
Dust them off, pick them up, send them home.
All right, thanks, Hoist Gracie.
The key is you must work with the highest wisdom state. It must run the show. And if you get yes on this, then you have it start running this process. That's all you do. You don't do it again. You don't have to do it again.
Right.
And in theory,
you leave it as an unconscious process.
Yes, you're building a tiny machine to run in the unconscious like Nikola Tesla used to. Ooh. And then when you knew he did that, right?
Yeah.
So
you would
once
imagine
this
things.
Happens, people report to me, our master hypnotists who I've taught this to in live classes when we used to be at St. Mike's College, Charbonneau Lounge, University of Toronto, but aren't now. We have no connection with them at all. And I won't even mention them. But back in those days, the students would report to me the next day and say, wow, I had really wild dreams last night, or I felt a bit out of sorts. There was a huge amount of internal reorganization going on. And that's what's bringing them into the fold. And we, through that method, begin to get greater and greater integration.
Fantastic. Okay, so that is quite a whopper of what's the word I'm looking for here,
I have no
Mike?
idea.
The ego state that is summarizing boy is clearly out to lunch right now. So that was a heck of a bunch of information that can be used whether you're a therapist or if you want to do something like this inside of the context of self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
And of course, we have our easy self-hypnosis program on our website that people can look to. So here's your quick marketing plug. If you want to learn more about this, go to the website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. You'll probably want to start with the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy if you're looking to learn this stuff and apply it to other people to help them. If you're looking to use this on yourself, you'll want to look at our personal growth membership, which includes the Easy Self-Hypnosis program and so much other awesome stuff.
And
you can use this inside of self-hypnotic trance work, which is amazing. So there we go.
Good sales pitch. Now I have to find a link and put it all in this when I do the
There you go.
All right, now listen, Chris, we're going to go on with moving on, changing topics.
We're going to switch to heteroaction.
But first, we have an important message. Tonight, on the Do Yourself a Disservice Network, it's the Honey Hallmark Show.
Honey, honey Hallmark, the girl who loves greeting cards. It's honey, honey Hallmark, the girl who loves greeting cards. She's got frizzy red hair and she drives a school bus, but she's no different than the rest of us because she's honey, honey Hallmark, the girl who loves greeting cards.
Stop singing and finish your homework.
The girl who loves greeting cards. On tonight's show, Honey Hallmark is true to her namesake, a girl who loves greeting cards. In this season finale, Honey hits the jackpot. Following a tip from a friend in the know, Honey sells her aging Laidlaw school bus and puts nearly $12,000 on a lanky chestnut long shot in the 6th race at Belmont. Well, the rest is history. An unlikely horse comes in first, and Honey wins nearly $2.5 million. Honey cashes in the certified racetrack check and plans to start a new life by owning her own greeting card store. With that kind of money, it's going to be a wonderful new life. Or is it? But it turns out that all is not so clean in Colon, Michigan. Honey's sneaky friend Jenny hears of her enormous win on Fox News and decides to freeload on Honey's good luck. Jenny breaks into Honey's house when she's out looking at store locations and fills a wheelbarrow with all of Honey's windfall cash. She trundles the money across the railway tracks to a small establishment near the deserted railway station just next door to the pool hall to the steps leading down into an alcove where written on the wall is the location of a small specialty shop that Jenny visits. It's no surprise when Jenny blows all the money and picks up a smooth one for herself. But it doesn't end there. Imagine all the zany fun that develops when Honey goes into a rage and chases Jenny across 3 states with an axe. Spoiler alert, Honey finds a greeting card that's perfect for Jenny's funeral. The Honey Hallmark Show at 3 a.m. on the Smooth One Network. All right, ready?
Change of topic. Now we're going to talk about heteroaction because it is everywhere. And as Chris said, Andre Weizenhofer, 1957, talked about heteroaction. And the whole concept is heteroaction means when someone fulfills a hypnotic suggestion, they are likely, much more likely to fulfill another one, more difficult one even if it's totally different. But the beauty of it is it doesn't just happen with hypnosis.
That was what I was just about to say. I'm so glad you brought that up because this podcast is the brain software podcast. Hurrah! It is not only about hypnosis. It's about all kinds of awesome things. So just because Andre Weizenhofer came up with this concept in the context of hypnosis, that doesn't mean we can't also use it everywhere else.
And Andre's dead, so he can't stop
There
us.
you go. So let's start with the idea that if someone fulfills a suggestion or a request, it could be a suggestion, direction, suggestion, request, whatever. If people do things that someone else asks them to do, or even backing up a step further, we're about to talk about yes sets. If people agree with things, simple things, they're more likely to agree with other things that are less simple. They're more likely to then do simple things, which will then take you into more likelihood of doing less simple, more things they would likely have resisted without the smoothing of the way, the greasing of the chute. Right? The greasing of the chute is a nice way. Which leads into the idea that you can use this in hypnosis. You can use this for good, or you can use this, as certain organizations do, for not so good, right?
I'm still stuck on the smoothing of the way and the greasing
smoothing of the way. Well, just think
is that an engineering term or something?
I don't even know where greasing of the chute comes from.
Well, I'm afraid I might, so let's continue.
I think a chute is like, I think of it like a slide. I think of it like a slide where something is sliding down a chute. And if it's high friction, it doesn't move so easily.
Right, because you're losing a lot of, you're losing heat.
Think if you were you ever a children? Were you ever?
I was never a children.
I was never a children. Have you ever, as a child, slid down one of those plastic slides, but it was all like moist skin?
Yes,
right on. It's a squeak and rub burn and horrible.
Have you been on one of those amusement park rides where they give you a little mat and you ride it down the thing?
Oh yeah, especially water slides where you get on like they give you like a foam mat,
like a flume ride,
and there's zero. It's almost like zero friction
because the molecules are rolling on each other. And this is now becoming a physics lesson.
Here we go, though. That's where grease the chute comes from. Anyway, the idea of reducing friction, towards movement.
Admirable restraint on my part.
So if we think about heteroaction, it is a process by which we can start easy and move to the more difficult, such that there is no friction in terms of what you want to have happen. Okay, and I know you're just about to enjoy this like Jack the Enjoyer.
Let's start with enjoying in the enjoyery. Now let's talk about yes sets for a second.
All right.
So Chris had alluded before this digression into chutes and moisture and things. He had alluded to this whole...
I did say moisture.
Meandering into moisture, you said. So we've got this whole thing about yes sets are where the person doesn't actually have to say yes.
Right.
But if they're internally agreeing with you, or at least considering that, nodding yes, whatever, you are now smoothing the way towards because of heteroaction, you're smoothing the way towards agreeing to something else.
Yes,
and how many do you need in a yes set? Typically 3 to 5 times will cause, what's the way? A lack of resistance. It'll remove resistance.
Absolutely.
Now, I've seen this with salespeople. I told Chris, I had a guy come to my door once, and he said, "Oh, hi, it's a nice day, isn't it?" I said, "Yes." Right away, I'm on alert. Yes set coming. And he says, "Do you live here?" And I said, "No, I always wear pajamas when I break into somebody else's house." And he,
nice pattern interrupt.
I said, "Stop doing a yes set on me." And he, it was fantastic.
It's just what we're taught.
Because then they go into a compliance set, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
you said yes, a guy with a yes.
Exactly. I was just about to do one to you. Michael C. Anthony bought you. Michael C. Anthony compliance set. Michael C. Anthony bought you that hat, didn't he?
He did, but he didn't get near my eye with his finger.
Exactly, but he did buy you that hat.
He did buy me the Heisenberg
and then you
hat.
got the sunglasses after that, didn't you?
Perfect Heisenberg.
And you've been really enjoying the Heisenberg character.
I've been enjoying the hat.
That is true. And in fact, not only the Heisenberg character, but since you started watching The Blacklist, you've really taken a liking to the Raymond Reddington character too, haven't you?
I find
we got the yes sets happening so easily, right? So
yes,
there you
that's
go.
right.
Right. So
undeniably true things.
Once we can get people to agree yes, say yes, or just think yes.
Or even nod yes.
It can be something as start as, well, we're all gathered here today.
You said something as start as.
Something as simple as. Didn't I say?
Start.
Oh, that's weird.
Okay. That out.
Well, we'll pretend that didn't happen.
We'll pretend
so it can be starting a presentation. Well, thank you. The usual thank you all for coming. We're all here to talk about this particular topic.
Yeah.
And people are going to be thinking, yes, we are. And realizing that it's getting late in the day, I think it makes sense to jump straight into it. Yes, it does. That's right. And let's start with the most important pressing issue, which is blah. And they go, yeah, okay, great. Right? I mean, easiest way in the world. You don't need anyone to actually say yes. They're just thinking it.
Buddy, I'm sorry, my jester ego state.
He's
the jokes. Just writing material
constantly.
There we go.
Deliver it. I think you should.
I can't deliver it, or we'll never do a podcast again. If I do, I'll tell you when we will.
We'll be demonetized, even though we don't monetize our YouTube channel.
Although we could.
Yeah, I suppose we could. We might.
So we typically go, the sequencing is to go yes set to compliance set. So if I had said yes with this guy, he would have probably gone to a compliance set.
Right.
Like I saw when I
Tell me what make of such and such you have. And that could be the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Getting you to comply by answering a question.
He's saying you got 5 seconds to get off my property and stick a knife in your head. Yeah. Now the interesting thing is...
Just kidding, in case there are any hidden microphones.
It's a joke. It's just silly.
It's comedy. It's a comedy show.
It's not a comedy show, but it could be.
Yes.
But we are giving you some stellar content. We just haven't actually found it yet.
So if the guy had done a successful yes at 3 to 5 things... Then he could have done a
compliance set. I fell for this many years ago when I was a much younger man. And more foolish, which is sometimes hard to imagine. Here's what happened. The guy said, he handed me a sheet of paper. He must have done a yes set. I didn't know about these things then.
Oh, is this the magazine thing where when you first told the story, you pretended it wasn't you because you didn't want to admit it? Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
All
you got me on a yes set. He said, this list, he said, see these magazines? Oh, yeah, there's a lot of different categories. He said, do you like the, yeah. Just check off 5 of them. Okay, and sign here. Okay, and we'll start delivering. Okay.
What did I just do?
Magazines started arriving, Outdoor Monthly and Bass Fishing and Tactical Knives. All this stuff started showing up in Black Belt Magazine. And back then, I had zero resistance to these things. I didn't even understand them. That's so funny.
It does make sense, though, that the way... So using a yes set is pretty easy, as we've already talked about. There's me doing one right now. And then if you want to segue into a compliance set gently, an easy way to do it is to simply ask somebody to answer a question that isn't a yes or no question in this case. Out of all of these, which are your favorite? These ones, right.
Check the boxes on your favorites. Yes.
There you go, right? So, and... Would you prefer to have these delivered to you at your home or at your business? Double bind it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, now we get, I actually, my business, that would be better. Yeah, my mailbox. Okay, fantastic. Well, here, put your credit card down number right here. And credit card down number, I just said. Mike, I need clearly more coffee.
No, hang on. Here's the thing. And we got to move on from this. The interesting thing is, a lot of seniors, people my age who aren't carrying 162 IQ points, do really stupid things. And I can't believe how seniors are taken in by stupid stuff. They get a phone call. Oh, you just won a brand new Jag, like the new V12 Jag.
Oh, amazing.
You just have to answer a skill testing question.
That doesn't sound too good to be true.
Skill testing question. What's the question? What is your Visa number or your MasterCard number? Okay, yeah. People are crazy. Now listen, Chris, we have to wrap this pecker up.
So let's say this.
You ask him, do the empowering. We're saying it's all
I know. Here, before we go to the empowerment question, we're going to say this.
Heteroaction.
Heteroaction, it's all heteroaction. So heteroaction is anything that, let's say, greases the chute, right? Gets people moving in the direction that you want them. If you're using this for influence and persuasion, like we were just talking about in sales situations, use this ecology first, use this for people's good, help them change. If you're using this as a hypnotist, we're calling it heteroaction, and it's everything from the yes set to the compliance set to the suggestibility tests that we'll do to create more heteroaction, starting with the easiest tests, moving on to the more difficult ones, the induction, the deepener. Where are we going?
You're killing me.
What?
Everything, my brain is finding you
Okay,
and everything
this
you're
is,
saying.
I don't even know
Stop.
why.
Okay, so it's
And-
all interaction.
Right, all the way through to the change work
nuts.
suggestions. We're starting by giving hypnotic suggestions that
Yeah.
are easy for people to imagine.
Like
and
Jack
then
the Imaginer.
we're leaving them with, let's say, post-hypnotic or continuance of suggestion.
Yep.
So if you think of everything as layered from very, very simple to do to more complex that might encounter some resistance, then it doesn't.
And then it doesn't.
And I didn't say grease the chute.
I'm just gonna please don't say that again. Okay, now look.
All right, so there you go.
Chris,
There's
give
your
us the
lesson.
empowering question. Is we haven't said
Empowering
enough words.
question.
Go ahead.
Ask yourself, what will I do tomorrow differently than today to ensure that I don't always wind up where I am now, but will land in a new location, metaphorically speaking, that contains the seeds of a new opportunity? And how will I recognize it when it happens?
Wow.
That's right.
Excellent. I got a quick MetaFIVE for you, and it's the MetaFIVE of Wednesday, August 17th, 1966.
Dun, dun, dun.
It was one of the most crucial days in my life. I was a 13-year-old boy, and my 20-year-old sister took me to Maple Leaf Gardens to see the Beatles. And that was the actual date. The band The Circle opened for them. Red Rubber Ball, you know. Ba, 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 ba. Anyway, they had little tiny Vox amps, not much bigger than the one you have with your Strat. Amazing guitar, amazing little amp. But this was to play Maple Leaf Gardens. This was way before huge sound systems. And all you could hear was girls screaming. I mean, for the entire concert. They did about 30 minutes, screaming like you can't imagine. You can see that concert, a minute of it, on YouTube, which is how I found the date. And I remember they're up on the little balconies and the no smoking signs that used to be at the end of the gardens. The girl was up on the balcony and she threw her sweater down on the stage. And between songs, it was lying there. John Lennon went over, picked it up just to move it off the stage. The instant his hand touched it, it was like a bolt of lightning hit this girl and she just collapsed over the rail, just fainted.
Wow.
It was a very, very interesting experience.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. This has been episode 180 of the Brain Software Podcast with Chris Thompson and Mike Mandel.
Yes, it is.
So we'll see you in the next episode.
We shall. We're locking
Thanks
up.
again and good night.
Hey, Chris, I got a weird ending for you here.
Uh-oh.
This is a new thing I think you're going to like. Did I ever show you my invisible Ouija board?
No.
I'm going to show it to you. Can I show it to you now?
Yep, sure.
Okay. Let me just get it.
Do we
right
need it
here.
on camera?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I'll just set it here. Because it's invisible, I can let it float like a few inches above the table.
Okay.
Let me put my hands on the planchette. I'm just going to mentally ask it something. Oh, that's responding right away.
You like Jeopardy music here.
It said you're a dick. I love it.